we need Canada to be an optimistic country because, like, hey, spoiler, the best times are ahead of us. Like, just they are. We'll need resources. We have a lot. So good. We need space. We have a lot. We have, like, to do anything. We need amazing people. We have a lot. They need to be educated by excellent universities. We have a lot. So, like, we have all the ingredients. We just, like, the world needs more Canada. Let's go.
Welcome to the Startup CEO Show. I'm your host, Mark MacLeod. When I started this podcast, my dream guest was to have one day Tobi from Shopify. Well, today is that day. Tobi is my guest. As you would expect, this was a wide-ranging conversation. It could have gone much longer than it did. I tried to just unpack his success, less about how to run a 10,000-person company today and more about how he got there. Of course, we diverged into other topics, including his views on the Canadian ecosystem, politics, and our shared passion in motorsport. I really love this conversation, and I hope you do too. Tobi, welcome to the Startup CEO Show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I was looking forward to this. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Yeah. When I started this podcast, and I had a list of dream guests, you were literally the number one. And I figured, maybe after a year, I'll have enough credibility. But then I saw you at the Beta Kid event, and I was just like, screw it, I'm going to ask him. Worst he's going to do is say no. And here you are. So I'm really grateful for that.
Hey, I love podcasts. It doesn't take that much convincing. We have some fun priors to fall back on, especially on the topic of becoming or being a startup CEO. So this should be really fun. Amazing.
Now, one thing I noticed is that when you responded to my email to say yes, you would come on, you responded at it was either 4:20 or 4:30 in the morning, which tells me that you were either like in Iceland or the UK, or you're grinding pretty hard. So I thought I'd ask first of all, let's start there. Are you grinding really hard these days?
So, I mean, look, the funny thing is I couldn't even it's not like that I know exactly what was going on there's like many constellations of how this could wind up being true. I don't know. Do I grind hard? Yeah, probably. I sometimes I get up very early, sometimes I stay up late. It depends. I just sort of learned to listen to my body on this kind of stuff. I also travel a good deal, so it's one of the above. But it's funny because this seems like a really controversial thing to say at various times. But I really like working.
Yeah, I obviously, yeah, because you could choose not to, and
right.
From my vantage point, you're working as hard as ever, so you must love it.
Yeah, I tried you get lots and lots of advice, and especially when you hear something 10 times, you should probably take it seriously. If you hear something thousands and thousands of times, you're like. And feel you are sort of on the other side of the thing, but you keep getting suggested. You're like, yeah, it's probably me that's wrong here. I think
it's a feature, not a bug.
Yeah. So it's an old joke in German about when the radio comes on and says on a highway there's someone driving the wrong way around, and you say what, one person? It's thousands. So you really have to get a bit of different perspective. Anyway, this happened to me around just sort of work-life balance and all these encoded things of there's clearly correct assertions in there, but my life doesn't feel very balanced if I don't, just get a lot of work done, because I just I get to play with computers all day, and I got to work with unbelievably inspiring individuals today. In fact, I work all day for unbelievably inspiring individuals as my customers. I have such an embarrassment of riches. So it's just kind of, every once in a while I like to play a video game, but it's just hard to imagine that any video game can keep my attention for very long, given that everything else that's going on.
Of course. And so obviously, as you know, the audience for this podcast is young startup CEOs who you once were. And for most of them, they can't even imagine, right, the greatness that you've experienced. And nobody who achieves greatness is balanced. right? Nobody that we admire, no, musician, athlete. You and I are both Formula One race fans. Like no Formula One driver is balanced, right? Their life is completely geared around being the top 20 drivers in the world. And that's the world you live in, right?
Well, I mean, greatness. Like, look, it's here's the thing. Like, yes, but the craziest thing already happened for everyone who's a startup founder. You start a company, just like it's totally unreasonable thing to do. Like it's, like and you did this thing if you have started a company where you first of all decided you can do something totally better, which like I applaud, because this is it's an act of defiance and courage, like to say, hey, I know how to do this thing better here. Often also it's right, because the world's not that good. Like this is a funny thing.
Yeah.
Like it just and also the world's not that good to begin with, even if it would be static. And it's not. Like we just like have to reinvent the whole shebang every couple of years. It seems like we are all in another delightful technology transformation right now through AI. I didn't expect actually to see such a strong massive paradigm shift again. I've lived through a bunch of them before, so that's good. But you made a conscious decision to instead of working 40 hours a week for someone else, you work 100 hours a week for yourselves, just so you don't have to work 40 hours for someone else, right? Like that's not exactly what well-adjusted normal people do. So
it's very true.
So therefore, everyone who starts businesses and runs them is kind of an unreasonable person, and I think that's an important thing to do. Like it's the world is kind of shaped by the unreasonable, because the reasonable don't get started.
Yeah, I love it. I totally love it. I feel like that might have been a Nike commercial back in the day, but I can't remember the exact phrase. This brings up for me something I wanted to get to, but let's just go there now, which is burnout, right? Like the number one reason why founders sell their companies is because they burn out. And I'm wondering how that lived for you. Were there periods in this journey where you were like, I'm done? And how have you managed those boundaries? And I don't know if you still live this, but I remember your Twitter bio for years, I think, was something like CEO by day, dad in the evening, hacker at night. I'm wondering, do you still keep those boundaries? And do you have boundaries been key in you not burning out?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was mostly speaking not out of like of ambition, but more on statistics. Like it's this is sort of a way the heat map of hours in the day kind of works out. But like it's so burnout. I have a complex relationship with that topic, because I actually like it's kind of devilishly hard to talk about, because there's a very real thing called burnout, but I think it's much rarer than people would expect. I think that what and like broadly, burnout happens in the following way reliably, which is that if you do the kind of work, like if the work you're doing, especially work that you have agency over, like which you put a part of like your creativity is invested in it and so on. Like this is the work that's like feels amazing if you end up succeeding. But if that fails, often, especially for things outside of your reasons, like for instance, corporate headquarters shut down the project, even though it would have been a good one or so. If this kind of thing happens a couple of times in a row, there's a really, really, really bad thing that can happen, which is that the activity, your craft and your work gets associated with pain and failure. And that is a thing that you have to unwind psychologically. And like that requires, either to live in highly exuberant life if you want to do the DIY version of this, or like a therapist, or, definitely very good advice and some distance. My sense is like the term is being thrown around pretty commonly for things that like it's not clear to me when I listen to some people talk about burnout that it isn't the word they are not actually sort of looking for is hard. And I think this is not a great thing because, like, man, like, shit's hard, but shit's interesting because it's hard. Like, it's like you want to actually set yourself hard challenges. Now, some of them can be frustrating on top of it. So you end up getting this sort of cocktail of emotions. And that can be draining, and that requires like some recuperation time. But it's actually the fun bit about, like, I don't know, most, like, it feels to me, at least in my 20s, I didn't need any of that kind of stuff. I just worked. Then so in my 30s, like I got, like, there's just not that much gas in the tank to the same degree. It's like also some things have turned mundane, which were previously amazing, like just like the process of learning to, like, starting a business, or the process of learning to become an excellent programmer, like, was like so invigorating to me in my 20s that it's like, while doing the tasks I was trying to do, it also recharged me. It's like sort of a, it's like driving an electric car and having solar panels on the top that can actually, like, really charge you as you go. But it's not a dream of everyone. Totally doesn't work in the numbers, but like in I think in the 20s, you like, it can actually happen, and you're very lucky if it does. So with all that being said, you kind of have to figure out how to make this like sprint maintainable and turn it into a marathon. And like, I think what I see people in Shopify have had problems with is, like, they just sort of opt out and, like, try to do the mojitos on the beach thing, or just, like, go van life or something. And it just, like, that tends to not be the right thing. So for me personally, I have my ups and my downs and my moments, for sure. I started Shopify exactly 20 years ago, pretty much precisely now, around 20 years ago. Shopify gives you a month intermission every 5 years. I have them all banked. I have 4 now. So sometimes I threaten to disappear for 4 months, and then everyone ignores me because they know I could never even pull this off. So no, I don't know. It just, I wish people wouldn't talk so much about burnout, so to leave room for when this is actually truly happening in a medical sense. And I've managed to, like, avoid it, I suppose.
For me, when it's come up with my clients, I've focused on 2 things. One is, let's reorient your role around the things that you love and that are your superpower. Because I actually find in some ways it's as simple as that. If you're doing what you love, you keep going. And if you're doing what you hate, life sucks and drains energy.
One of the most important questions everyone has to ask themselves is, what is a thing that you would do for free and you do for free that someone else would have to be paid for? And I think that's, it just gets at the heart of it. It is just important. Like, so my darkest moments where I was, like, the closest are the times where I eventually realized, I went to a therapist and they were trying to talk about my parents. I'm like, it's just not it. And eventually I just realized I never program anymore. Why? Like, I have so much, like, and so I added it back in my life, and then everything was fine. So
that's amazing. Yeah. So the superpowers is a thing. And then the other is actually make time for physical fitness. That's the foundation, right? And if you do that and you're serious about it, you'll be serious about sleep, you'll be serious about nutrition. And then when you show up, you're just going to be a better version of yourself. And so on that note, you're still lean and mean is fitness. And now you're racing, which I definitely want to talk about before we're done, but maybe later. So is fitness like a thing for you?
Yeah, it wasn't, I was sort of out of shape. After, like, sort of right after the time of IP. No. Like, it sort of, I never took it, like, super seriously, but my body needed it. So, like, eventually I'm like, okay, well, this is not good. And then I just realized how much fun it was. So I wasn't that diligent about it. It's sort of the last 10 years now that I've been much more, I go to the gym every day. So, like, I have a home gym. So I always do 20, 30 minutes after, before breakfast. And that's been super stable for me. It's hard. It's a tricky thing just because, like, the effects of it are, like, hard to, like, you just have to, like, kind of, everyone hears these stories. It's like this is one of those which really, I think, like, I mean, I would also undersign the statement. It's just hard to immediately correlate it when you start getting into it, and people are too hasty wanting to see the results. But like, it's physical, especially resistance training, and strength training. These things are just like incredibly good for like literally everything about like if you want to do this kind of stuff. And you're right, like with motorsport, it's just like you really have to. This is just a lot less forgiving. But the unsatisfying thing about a lot of the desk job startup kind of thing is, man, like the feedback loops suck, right? Like everything is slow, everything is vague. Like it's like, yeah, like. Even if you build software, you deploy it, and then yes, it might be that thousands of people use it, and it just doesn't feel like anything. Like your server's load goes up a little bit. You're just like it's everything is so abstract. Yeah, but that is a thing that does make it hard.
Right. Yeah. Let's take a step back, and we don't need to cover the origin story. That's well known. But you were not the original CEO. You didn't necessarily want to be CEO. You'll bristle to hear this, but you're obviously and mathematically and objectively the most successful tech CEO in Canada. And just like, would love to unpack how you taught yourself to be that CEO. And, I quote you all the time to my clients about how you talk about having to requalify for your job every year. But I'm wondering just how specifically you did that, especially because, in my brief time with you, one of my observations was that you bristle at convention. If someone's to say, "Oh, this is the way you do it," like you would almost be like, "Well, then I'm not going to do it. You're going to have to like prove to me that that's the way to do it." So I don't think it's as simple as following people and doing what they do. So I'm just curious how you did it.
Yeah, I reflexively just take the opposite. Yeah, but I wonder if that's actually like that's definitely important for my story, but I don't know if it's important for like I think there's many different ways there. Like. Yeah, how far to go back? I love computers. I love working with them. I want to be CTO of a company. I think sometimes I feel like I still want to. Like me and my co-founder split the company just like so, right? Like Scott do the business, I do the tech. It wasn't like when Scott left. 2008, I think, 7. I was trying to find a CEO and then just sort of got to talk. But like I also like, I wanted to ask them smart questions. So I'm like, okay, well, what does a CEO actually do? So back then there weren't like podcasts like yours or any of these things. And, I started with books and read them. Like, but this is how I learn things in technology too, right? Like it's figure out who knows something and then figure out what they learned, or at least how they explained their success, right? Like I tend to find biographies better because because I find it extremely hard to learn anything outside of a context in which it was discovered. And they also usually give you sort of this. What did the person know when they made their most important life decisions at the point when they were made, right? Like, because you get it sort of laid out in sequence. And so I've kind of made a study out of this type of decision making. And maybe this is a bit also the engineer in me. I just don't like arguing by analogy. Like just because something is like in another version of that, I just don't think that I don't think that has anything terribly interesting to say. The world is like pretty mid in terms of quality. Like again, like I really don't think like the really remarkable things we can all list. Like it's it's a Golden Gate Bridge and Rome and like humanity has sometimes decided to make unbelievably great, beautiful things, but like that was a very very specific times, and most of the time we don't. So I don't know why people think doing something like everyone else is such a good idea. If fundamentally, the reason why I left, struck out on my own and wanted to start a company is because I want to do something world class, right? Like, and if you want to do something world class, axiomatically, you can't make it the way everyone else does, because otherwise you get the same thing,
like
right?
everybody else.
So I think there should be a healthy skepticism of what everyone doing the same thing, and so. And it is really, really a fun practice to be able to argue from ideally very few axioms why a certain thing works, like, which leads you in the world of companies very quickly to, very quickly to economics, very quickly to statistics, very quickly to social studies, to psychology, really, and also philosophy. It's like entrepreneurship is a very applied version of basically all of the sciences to a degree that just makes it which is why it's so fun. And it's a perfect, it feels to me like the perfect excuse to then have a sort of skin in the game, to have to learn as much as you can, because frankly, any situation you're getting into, you will have to make a decision pretty quickly, right? There's a lot of decisions that have to be made in a given week, every day, right? Like a company, a company makes millions of decisions a day, and you just hope that the vast majority of them are go in the right direction. And so you have to try to be able to judge the right direction. You will have to hire people, you have to interview people, you have to you have to know a lot about a lot. And I felt like I was committed to this basically already. It was a big factor for me when starting a company that even if it wouldn't work, I would learn a lot, right? Like, because it just seems like that's the game, right? Like, it's learning a lot about the world's just unbelievably interesting. And so, I read these books, and then it was eventually an angel investor of mine who decided, John Phillips, who you think you might know, but who eventually convinced me that there's never going to be anyone who's he will care about Shopify as much as I do, which meant I should probably be the ultimate decision maker. And so that's what I did. It wasn't my ambition, or it's funny. It's like life is so path dependent. I would have been perfectly happy if that wouldn't have happened as well. But here we are.
You said something. Something I'm kind of latching onto, and what you said is how you wanted to do something remarkable. I'm just curious where that ambition came from.
I don't know. That's a good question. I haven't really thought about this. It just seems like, maybe to reverse the question, where would anyone's ambition for anything else come from? Why would anyone settle for anything else? It's the only thing worth working on planet Earth is world-class things that inspire others, right? Because we're creating gifts for each other when we make products.
But it requires us to go out of our comfort zone, and not everyone's up for that.
Yeah, but where is this comfort zone coming from, right? I don't. What is this comfort zone? I don't understand that. It's why is that the label we put on it? Isn't this just mediocrity?
It is, absolutely.
But what's comfortable about that? It's obviously I'm being cute here a little bit, but I don't know. I want people to aim higher, because, man, we only have one career. It's life's
Yep. Both you and I are immigrants to Canada.
Yeah.
Can't tell listening to me, but I came to Canada from a tiny island in Scotland when I was 11. And, my best friend on the island at the time, I'm still in touch with him, has a part-time job bagging groceries at the one grocery store in town, and a part-time job driving a taxi for the one cab company in town, right? That could have been my life. I came to Canada, and obviously not when I was 11, but as I was graduating high school and getting into university, and just realizing oh my God, I could do anything, and could achieve. Now, I haven't founded a company, but certainly relative to where I come from, I've achieved a lot and not settled, not gone for mediocrity. And
You're right. We only, I don't know, the Buddhists say we have many lives. I only know about this one. And I want it to be special. I want it to matter,
Even if you have many, like if you have any shot at like making it a good one and maybe even making the next one better based on like accelerating things a little bit into a good direction, like you should take it, right? Like so, like ambition seems to be like the most obvious, like like the only game theoretically valid strategy, like that exists, and so. Where is this being drained? Like, I mean, this maybe is becoming a little bit of a Canada conversation, but like the problem is very often, I mean, in Canada, we often have like conversation about Canada, but like, why are we so different from the United States? It's actually not, I don't think this is the way it works. It's like, why is America so different? Like everyone else is the same. Like it's like it's exactly the same problems in the G7. Is like every country. Like I mean, the path to the problems is a different one, and of everyone it's making. But literally everyone's in the same position. Like it's just like with economies that can't like, and then you have the United States which can't help itself. Like having like multiple companies compete for the next $1 trillion market cap milestone, and like it's just like, oh my god, that country. So why do we can't we reproduce this outside of the United States? Is what I keep thinking about.
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. I'd say first of all, stay on Canada for a second, and certainly in the context of like the tech ecosystem, I think the best and worst thing about the Canadian startup ecosystem is its proximity to the US, because we can't help but compare. And I contrast that with, well, Germany, right? Germany's a large country and it has a large domestic market. And there's companies like Rocket Internet back in the day that were quite happy just building products for the German market. Whereas Canadian customers won't even buy new technology unless their US counterparts have bought it. And then, of course, there's the fact that the US is like 10x the size, and this whole settling and cowboy mentality, and we can do anything, like it's just, and then just 10x the population. Like there's just, I think we like to bash the US at the moment just because of politics and stuff, but there's a lot to admire there. That's for sure.
Yeah, pretty remarkable. Lots to learn. Like I think we should. I think we can criticize the United States as long as we also appreciate it for what it's accomplished, and I think we should be insightful enough to realize that many of those things are the same side, like two different sides of the same coin. It's optimism is it's a minimum requirement for entrepreneurship, right? Like you cannot be a pessimistic startup founder if you don't.
Almost hallucinatory levels of optimism, right?
Yeah, but also optimism has been for all of human history correct. In fact, usually been too pessimistic about the future. It is. There is zero upside of being a pessimist. There's just nothing happens around pessimism. And I'm not to even talk about cynicism, which is it's sort of like
it's going backwards.
Yeah, it's like that. I mean, that's basically the pessimists who didn't even manage to stay on pessimism. So it's fine to be sometimes pessimistic about some project or like things that are in front of you, because sometimes we need the people being pessimistic to look around corners and just steer us around the obvious pitfalls, right? But you got to be optimistic about medium and long term. Otherwise, you should not be in a tech company, or you should be basically you would dooming yourself towards taking a critic role. And again, society thinks critics are useful. I really don't. I don't. I think.
Yeah.
The only if you are a critic, if you take the critic position to a society, the most defining thing that you could possibly do in your lifetime is say something so outrageously stupid to a builder to galvanize them into just I'm going to show him that's your most optimistic scenario for your contribution to the society's common project of your country, which is the economy. And I'm like, yo, like let's not so much. And so, anyway, like we need Canada to be an optimistic country because, like, hey, spoiler, the best times are ahead of us. Like, just they are. Like we for the foreseeable future, not forever, but for another bunch of years, bunch of decades, we'll need resources. We have a lot. So good. We need space. We have a lot. We have like to do anything. We need amazing people. We have a lot. They need to be educated by excellent universities. We have a lot. So like we have all the ingredients. We just like the world needs more Canada. Let's go. And I think this is the attitude every country needs to take because again, man, we have forgotten our common projects here. Like this is my biggest, not to veer this too much into politics, but just like since I'm basically committed at this point, I'm going to go there anyway. I think the worst thing that happened is this sort of talk about unbiased and neutral that exists. I don't recognize like this is not something I know from Germany. Like Germany always had like like sort of there's the left and the right channel, so they're kind of like here's the two different perspectives. Mm-hmm. I think what happened in North America now, and this is like America's implicated in this, is that we have kind of like tried to explain away the project we are on, and I think this is a problem. I think if you see people like Millet or like now, you catch a glimmer of this. Man, liberalism is amazing. Creating markets, having like in which we can exchange goods, people can enlighten self-interest. I mean, Shopify is fundamentally a celebration of entrepreneurship, right? Like it's we pray on that altar. It is about individuals being extraordinary, and so we've in our infinite wisdom we create these markets where people can exchange gifts to each other for whatever transfer of value you choose for currency. And so we need to stop talking about neutrality because it sounds like stasis, right? And of course, stasis leads to pessimism because stasis is the opposite of motion. But that's not at all what's going on. We are actually still committed to the project of building better societies that work better for everyone, one step at a time, every day, through like these institutions we created and so on. And so, but what we have to do is we have to reinvent this all for the new times. We have to continue building it. Like we are going on a chart, we are moving this project forward in a way that like none of like the founding fathers or John Locke or other people or Voltaire or other people who thought about these things would imagine possible. We are porting the concepts of entrepreneurship into the digital realm. We are like constantly coming up with new technologies and products and resources and so on, so on, so on. An incredible like wealth is being created all around us. And I think what's said is this is all framed in like let's be unbiased or fair and balanced all the time. No, we are not fair and balanced. We are building liberal democracies. We are building a super unlikely thing here, and we constantly needs improvement. Sometimes we need to like look a little bit on the left and a little bit on the right for finding the best path through this sort of foggy terrain. And we need both sides, and both sides have something to add. But it's not the entire spectrum. So sorry,
we could have an entire discussion on this, but.
That's probably not the right.
It's not the right one.
But in here's in as much as it. I think let's try to land this plane and why I'm so passionate about this. God damn it! Like it's important that we start companies because it is like just not possible to sustain any of these projects without a constant influx of remarkable individuals reaching higher, being ambitious, optimistic about the future, collecting the other people who want to reach for a better tomorrow, and just making products that are. Like just, reach anything from making completely new things possible that would never be thought to be possible to just improving everyone's day by like 1% because you love the leather boots that you're making or the technological gadget. We need all of that because that's what shape progress is made from.
I love that. That's great. No, amen to that. So let's go back to you for a moment. I'm curious, you're a coder, you build products. Have you taken that same approach to building yourself a CEO? Like, do you have a leadership roadmap as an example? Here's what I need to look like a year from now, and here's the projects that are going to get me there.
So you would be surprised how few goals I actually ever used inside. I don't think goals are. They're not motivating to me. I know this is like a little bit character, like different personality types are different there. One of my favorite books is a book called Finite and Infinite Games by James Carr. Like it describes this much better than I could. But like, I just like, I'm a journey person. Like I think of, so anyway, this is probably too big a discussion, especially after I just rambled for 10 minutes. But like, so
just clear your afternoon, Toby, and we'll solve all the world's problems.
Yeah. So suffice to say, no, I don't have. Here's my goal. I have a mission statement, right? Like for myself, which I find is very, very helpful. I do. I just like this is helpful for companies, I've learned to just like follow my interests in terms of stuff to learn and what to prepare for the next step. Sometimes it's quite clear when we were taking a company public, I really, really had to learn just more about finance than I had to take the company. Like around the same time, I also just had to like do some media training and be like there's some obvious. Sometimes it's obvious, sometimes it's nebulous. But the key is that it needs to be quite clear to me what I'm becoming better at, because again, stasis is the thing that will kill you otherwise. Like you really do have to requalify for these jobs, right? Like, my like, I don't think I'll ever retire from my position, but I very well might fire myself. Right? Mm-hmm. I want to be or I certainly think I'm pulling this off, to be my harshest critic. No
doubt that you are.
Like, so I'm getting quite upset at myself if I make obvious mistakes. I am fairly good at record keeping to figure out if I made mistakes. And so this is sort of a way it's all put together. So it doesn't revolve around goals. It revolves around partly because goals did nominate a finite game. Like there's a like a place at which point the game is won. Where infinite games are unquantifiable. It's like education, wisdom.
Right.
It's the larger things, the things that don't have a victory condition. Finite games are usually played in order to level up towards these infinite games, and so I spend a lot more. I'm a lot more set and maniacal about the infinite games, and then I'm very easy on the finite ones along the way.
This episode is brought to you by Fellow. Fellow is the only AI meeting management solution that covers every part of your organization's meeting workflow. Go to fellow.app/CEO to get 300 free minutes of AI recordings and start having better meetings.
I remember you telling me, maybe it was 2012. This is back when people's offices and homes weren't in the same location. About how you would go home at the end of the day and replay your day almost like a movie in your head and go through like a learning loop and correction. I'm wondering, do you still do that?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. It's pretty involuntarily, and I've kind of always done it. It's not something I probably could turn off if I wanted to. I just want to make sure Again, I see it as my craft to be as good as possible for the next day, and try to make this like. Of course, I fall short or often, right? So, but I then endeavor to like learn the right lessons from that. And if I made a mistake, I'll apologize for it. I think that's, again, that helps me with my own goals of for the things wanting to become very good at these things as well. So, I've developed this further. I take better I take better notes these days. If there's big decisions, I sort of capture the decisions plus the information I use to make the decision, so I can revise.
As like Shane Parrish's decision log.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's good practice. Sobering at times. Like the thing I specifically look out for is I don't worry about making the wrong decision. If I couldn't have known that, right? Like what I really worry about is when I make a wrong decision and the right information was readily available, like someone would have already known and I didn't ask them, or I just like didn't know about a certain thing being like sometimes commonly done. Like sometimes I dismissed the standard way to do a thing too quickly and didn't realize there's significant wisdom encoded in that wasn't immediately apparent. That exists as well. But yeah, like
that realization that you just said that there is some wisdom in the standard. I'm wondering whether you've been more open to that as you've gotten older.
Probably better to ask the people I work with.
Yeah, okay. I'll do a 360.
I don't know. Yes, I have learned to value yes and no. I know I was extremely dismissive about everything initially because I just thought everything was like shit. Now I think everything is mid. Like that's basically the difference. And sometimes mid is actually exactly what you want. Like it's like I don't need to have the world's best account receivables departments, right? So as long as the right things happen, that's probably okay. I probably don't want to have the most innovative finance department. Like we have to GAAP accounting needs to be meticulous, but not maybe creative. In fact, creativity is usually
creative accounting usually gets you in trouble.
So there I want to if you put this on a scale from 1 to 10, say 10 is world class, and then you have 9 is good and 8 is 9 is great, 8 is good, 7 is meh. And then everything else is like whatever. I don't care about everything else parts. So 7 out of 10. So meh is that's like the high end of that's basically what you get when you're doing a very good implementation of what everyone's doing. Like the best version of sort of middle of a spectrum. Starbucks coffee is 7 out of 10. It's not it's not meant to be the best cup of coffee. It's just reliable every single time. Low, So I believe that startups exist to address good, great, and world class. And there's some large companies that manage to pull off every once in a while great stuff, which is remarkable and is unprecedented, I think. But it exists now. Apple does it once a decade or so.
Yep.
That's
Are you able to see the greatness in yourself and the greatness in your company, or are you always focused on the gaps?
Always focused on gaps. I'm like, if you get 98% on a test, I ask what happened in the last 2%. I'm like, I've got good Asian parent energy in Shopify.
That's awesome. Wow. So how would you quantify, your base level of happiness?
I think lots of studies on this, right? Like I think people have sort of a base level, like that they always will revert to. So mine is, I'm also German, so probably Germans never get to like very high on the scale. So I don't know, I'm probably somewhere in the middle. I'm very I'm obviously been insanely fortunate, and I have a super interesting job and a fantastic family. I'm like the lottery winner on every one of those things. All the stuff is really, really, really cool. But like, I mean, happiness is a bad goal. Like it's an unachievable thing because you will always revert to your median line. You can be content. You can also be, I think Arthur Brooks calls it happiness. Like you can optimize your happiness. Like you can do this by workouts, more health, more, like being surrounded by beauty and these kind of things, like care about your craft and your work. So I've got all this going. So it's it just gets to me, happiness is a very philosophical conversation. So I'm not trying to blow up your very simple question into a very complex answer to avoid the issue. But like I think burnout can also happen when people aim at something that's unachievable. Like humans are not happier. Like there's no, like, by the way, some people talk about wealth and objects and products and like these kind of things. They seem to indicate that they believe there's like this life of complete, utopian bliss that can be achieved. It's like I know a lot of of the billionaires that exist. None of them are like this. So
yeah, for sure. I'm glad you actually brought this topic back to burnout, and we'll move on to another topic in a second. Because listen, it's a long journey, even just for startups that achieve much lower levels of success. It's a long journey, and my belief is actually by not losing your edge, not losing your dissatisfaction and chasing the vision, but taking a second to just appreciate where you are and where you've achieved. And even if you're nowhere near your vision, just to realize, hey, we've made progress. I actually think that fuels you and prevents burnout. But I think it's a thing.
Like I'm saying a lot of complexifying things. Let me say something simplifying, because I think this actually touches on literally every one of the topics we've just talked about, from burnout to sort of personal mission to personal learning journey, even to economy and optimism. You know what really, really matters is winning. Like I know it. This is I know this is not easy, but at least it's simple. The thing, like, burnout will be stemmed off by winning. And I think culture is often talked about at companies here. Like, yes, all very successful companies have really, really, really fit for purpose and great cultures. And all losing companies don't. But you know why? Because culture is not centrally planned. Culture is not even grassroots organically grown. Culture comes from winning together and celebrating it. And it's just like you gotta figure out how to set yourself up for a steady stream of wins. Like, this is actually where goals are super valuable. Like winning goals and then making a point of taking the second, to do it together. Is important. And here's going to be another thing I say. Like, Shopify happens to be, I think, the biggest committed remote company in the world, which I don't recommend. It works really, really well for us, but I do think it's like something on the order of 2 to 3 ticks harder than doing it together. Because of this very thing, like, winning together does not feel as nourishing remotely as it does when you're in the same location. I think this is where it's a human connection. It's like, hey, you were there when we did this thing. Yeah, but you weren't there. Like, we were, like, the same IC channel just doesn't count in the same way. I think about this a lot. So I'll tell you, we brought all of the company, everyone who works here, to Toronto for a week recently. First time we've done this since before COVID. And it's like, hundreds and hundreds of people flew in from Japan alone. It's a big company. That's everyone in the world. It was probably my most fun week of my life. It was so wonderful. And
that's for you as an introvert.
Yeah,
That's a
like
statement.
I just loved it. It was seeing everyone, and we did hack days together, which is like a real important event for us, for 3 days, and like we were there till like midnight every day, and it's just like this complete like just like stop, like drop all pretense of being these like very serious people, captains of industry, what have you. Just like we are all just like fans of each other, right? Like, and just like enjoy each other, and we had like fun talks, and like just like it was absolutely wonderful. And there also were moments where I'm like, holy shit, I love doing this. It's so cool to get to work on something like this and work with so many inspirational people, and I don't know, like that'll nourish me for a very, very long time. And day to day is like these jobs aren't that interesting in terms of like I probably make this sound better than it really, like I always say my 16-year-old would be amazed by what we've accomplished, but dismayed by how I spend my day. Right, like because it's just like meeting after meeting, and like look, people don't actually bring me their victories, they bring me their problems, right? Like it's like I get to like spend all day with delivering over like these sort of 51 to 49 could go either way decisions about something where no one likes either of the paths because like, hey, like whatever, that's what that's what
you signed up for.
Yeah.
Well, I tell you, we can go on for hours, but you do have a company around. I'm going to ask you two more questions. Maybe one on the business side and one not. When I look at Shopify, it's the only company I can think of in recent memory where all three active co-founders were crushing it in C-level roles at the time of IPO. And there's many factors behind that. Obviously, very smart, obviously right time, right place. But all of you, I believe, starting with you, had a coach, and in fact, the same coach. And I think at one point you had two coaches, and then you brought that first coach in-house and built a coaching function. And I think you invest in many levels at the company. I wonder if you could just talk about the power and impact that coaching has had on you, and why you made it a company-wide thing.
Yeah, like this is really important. Look, again, specifically, Shopify got started in Ottawa, Canada, which also meant we did not have like a very deep time pool of people who've built tech companies before. So we just made a, like, I think very wise decision to hire directly out of university, and like just like my belief is there's no speed limit for personal growth, really. Like it's just sort of induced by like school, that everyone has to sort of move ahead at the same like wall clock time. Like we've sort of learned to that. I mean, school basically makes the assertion that everyone, the best configuration for learning is that everyone learns at the same pace, but we make the level of understanding variable. That's what grades are, which I just think is completely, like, I mean, like, it's an idiotic idea. Like, I don't know why we keep doing this, but like, anyway, so like, I know why we started it, but I don't know why we keep doing it. Real life isn't like this. You can have people go for 10 years of wall clock career time in a year, or with an extremely well chosen project that is just slightly too hard for who they are and what they can do, but create this sort of alignment, longing for accomplishing it anyway, and when people reach and further than they even thought was possible, and it changes them in a way that it's just like a privilege to see. Like when Shopify IPO'd, we were of the executive team and the next level of a company, only one person in the entire group of like 20 people ever worked for a public company.
Right, Russ.
Yes. So I think that's pretty cool. I think it came out of this commitment for growth, because we felt that while some people are extremely good at doing the self-directed, like doing difficult things together is always better. Coaches have ability to see every situation multiple times, and it just ended up becoming such an obvious and amazing aspect of what we or like of what we are doing, every time I got send people to coaches, which I insisted on with my exec team, it just made such a difference. And like eventually, like we just built it out as a function. We called it talent acceleration, and it's been with us ever since. It's definitely, look, the thing you're trying to find. The last 100 years of business before like the 2000s, really, sort of until the 90s, I would say, there's true and false on one axis, like think an Eisenhower kind of quadrant thing here, like true and false on one axis, obvious and unobvious on the other one. The last sort of 2010, since like Friedrich Taylor, and then all the way to I would say sort of beginning of full digitalization in the 90s. Like, I think all that needed to be done is people just sort of coming up with fairly obvious and correct things. Like they needed to figure out which ones were incorrect things about how to build a business and which ones were correct ones. It's amazing how long this took for people. Like, just like, again, like Friedrich Taylor didn't bring a stopwatch to a factory to figure out how to turn building. I think this was Bethlehem Steel. Like how to take a task and turn it into many smaller tasks that could be like individually timed and so on. This is sort of the beginning of a scientific management. They called it back then. That was the technology. Like, imagine, like there was alpha in bringing a stopwatch to a split. Like, so. I think sometimes we really just underestimate just how how slowly it actually, like how long it took us to even come up with obvious stuff. But we know this all. Since then, it's the unobvious stuff that's correct that we are looking for. And every time you find an unobvious but correct thing, you've found alpha, right? You're trying to build a better company than everyone else. So you got to look for this stuff. I think, hiring for potential was unobvious then. Because it wasn't believed that you could then accelerate it, and putting coaches on payroll was also an unobvious but correct thing. And the way those two things interacted with each other, because they probably each individual wouldn't work, so they were combined, like they were compository. So anyway, I think this is like it's a neat little micro example of, I think, how. Like, I like thinking about building the company. Just try to figure out where's what, and try to, like, almost all the value that's left on the docket that we haven't incorporated into the businesses of today is the unobvious but correct ideas.
Love it. Last question, Tobi. So we have a mutual love for motorsport. I think yours is larger because you have a motorsport team and you race.
Our team.
Yes. I love that. For me, I love just the athleticism and just like the things we will do to get like a 1% improvement. So you just all this technology, there's everything. And I don't know, just tell me about motorsport in your life. And like, I mean, are your board directors losing their shit every time you get on a racetrack? Like, what's happening there?
Yeah, funny story. I actually, the reason why this was around IPO time, which again, we IPO'd 9 years ago. So this was not recent. I learned about keyman insurance, and I had to sign a document with had a long list of things I would no longer be able to do. I'm like, guys, almost nothing on this thing sounds appealing to me, but like if you make me sign this document, I'll do all of them because this is like clearly look,
skydiving.
Like, a healthy, I don't like. Maybe I also start a company because I just can't work for other people. I have clearly authority problems. So if you make me sign that I can't do stuff, I will do them. Which by the way, my chief of staff has definitely figured out as a way to get me to do stuff. So awesome. Motorsport is actually one of those I picked up. I didn't for the longest time I didn't even have a driver license in Canada. It was never. I mean, I love Formula One. I'm a lifelong Formula One fan. Grew up like 20 minutes away from a Nürburgring in Germany. So this was our weekends. But like I didn't think that would be something I would be doing. And I went to a track one point, and like one of us got myself invited. It was like, I was a +1 of someone who got invited from the office, and like they put you in these cars and then just like give you a helmet and tell you to, here's what to do. And after I think 2 laps or so, they waved me in again. I was wondering what was going on, and it turns out they told me I was almost out of fuel, because it was actually like 40 minutes later. I was like, holy shit, I need to do more of this. I think what I love about it is, I'm sure you've done track days, but like what I love about it is, there's a perfect lap time out there. It's theoretically possible. And your actual lap time is just the sum total of all your inadequacies.
So sad, but so true.
You just go, but I find that so motivating. There's nothing in the world I love as much as competing against myself. And I think that's actually probably a through line of a lot of the things we talk about. I'm not motivated by other people. I just don't, I build things for other people. I send gifts to other people, but I compete against myself.
Yeah.
And so, I love that you have to learn so much. It's so non-deterministic. It's not possible to be better prepared. I mean, obviously you can be better trained, but like there's no set pieces. Like it's not like chess or so where you can just like basically breakfast on an opening book and just memorize it all the way to win most of your games against unsuspecting victims. It's you gotta just like build your intuition, and so it's a wonderful sport. Every lap is different, and so on, so on, so on. Anyway, I got to do it. It's one of the most fun things I get to do. I do prototype racing. Also, I should say, like the fact that a friend of mine, David Heinemann Hansen, got very much into motorsports, also like played a role there because he encouraged me to keep at it. And so, it's incredible fun, and highly recommend grabbing a lap day if possible. And
I've done it. I used to have a Maserati GT and burnt through brakes and engines, and it's actually meditative in some ways. You're just so locked in.
Yeah, I call it Zen Buddhism at 250 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, that's right.
It's true. I mean, this is like adrenaline has to be part of it. I found like kiteboarding to be insanely good for this as well. It's like this combination of lots of non-deterministic elements like tires, waves, water, these kind of things, but some danger. Like it creates like enough adrenaline to. Like I can't meditate. Like I will refactor some code base if I sit down and don't not do anything. But like I that clears the head, and I think that's wonderful for that. So yeah, and Formula One is now popular, and that's kind of that sort of happened at some point. Thank you, Netflix.
Exactly. Thanks, Netflix. Yeah. Tobi, thank you so much. Honestly, this could have been many hours. Fascinating. And as a proud Canadian, we're very, very proud of you and Shopify. Truly amazing company. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I really enjoyed this. This was great.
Hey, thanks for listening to the Startup CEO Show. If you'd like to connect with me, be sure to visit my website at markmacleod.me or follow me on LinkedIn at @themarkmacleod or Twitter at @markmacleod_. And if you want to tune in again next week, be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll see you next time.